And we'll look, let's just do item number 14, is it? The palm tree planter boxes at intersection of Palm Drive and the Clearbrook Palm subdivision, and noting that the recommendation of the board, noting that the recommendation of staff is that this comes through the LTP process, and that is So there are two. Yeah, I'm not of a mind of supporting the approving option 3. I think there's but I don't know whether people want to move it and second it, or whether we can just simply receive the report and note that the Waipapa Papanui Innis Community Board will include this project in its submission to the long-term plan. So I'm keen to move that resolution, but yeah, okay, Jake seconded. All right, Pauline.
Oh well, I'll foreshadow a motion. Then I'd like to support the community board's option that they've selected the best solution in their view, and the funding is a separate issue. So I'd like to support the community board decision to select option 3.
Yeah, we're not. Yes, I know. I thought it would be a relatively simple, straightforward process, but it's not going to be. So maybe I'll come back to the paper later on. Sorry, I just thought that people would see that this wasn't a good process to actually do a budget bid. But that's by the by. Okay, that was not a good idea. I'll move on to the Waihoro Spreydon Cashmere Community Board report to Council. Carolyn Potter, thank you.
Kia ora tātou. I was really interested in the previous report where they put up their concerns. I thought that was a really good idea. I think we can do it next time. We'll annoy everyone. I'd really like it, Mike, if we could be included just in the report from your coastline committee, not because we have a vested interest, we don't, just to keep in... Yeah, you're on it. That's cool. Before we start too, I wanted to mention we had a Work Together workshop a couple of nights ago run by our governance manager, Emma Pavey, and Arahanui Grace, who was our ex-governance manager. We'd had one of these 4 years ago, and it's really good for catching up with each other and asking if we think that we're working well together and if we're doing what we're doing well and what we're not doing well. And we've identified that we probably haven't complied with our treaty obligations ever, and that we're going to introduce a karakia like you do here, which will be terrible for me and my inadequacies, but some of the people who have come to Tuesday sessions have really think that they can manage it really well. And we're going to think of other things too that we can do too to uphold our Waitangi commitments. In the meantime, we've just got a couple of nice things that have happened. This is out of our ward, but was in our ward when it started. It's the rebuild of Opawa Library, and thanks to at least one other disaster in the community library rebuilds, this library was done beautifully, absolutely beautifully. I was proud to stay on the committee. It is Heskett Central Linwood who should be reporting on it, and I hope they do. But I just wanted to say that I was very grateful for the committee for allowing me to keep my involvement in it and for how well the library has turned out. They've got some marvellous things in it, including, for instance, titles of rooms that existed in the old library, which says reading room, and they've got a reflection of the river below and a little balcony over the river. But I'll leave it for that board to report because it is Linwood Central's rebuild. but I was just proud to be invited to the opening and staying on the committee that helped design it. It was a great effort. Our board is particularly pleased that the cycleway is restarting again, particularly in our case, the Norwest Arc. The only thing I'd like to comment on is that one of the roads in our area has been under constant build for the last almost year, and has had the tar seal in the same place ripped up twice, and everybody of course goes, why can't they do it all at the same time? And we know why they can't, but it's going to be ripped up again, which I think will cause a bit of uproar. And so in other words, I think there'll be one street in our ward which will be underbuilt for getting on for a year and a half, 20 months. And because they're in infrastructure rebuild at the moment, and then the cycleway is going to come through. But we're delighted to have it. The Norwest Arc in particular has been delayed since 2017, and we're really thrilled that it's starting up again. We can see the advantages in our ward, and one of our suburbs, Beckenham, reckons that they've got more cyclists than any other suburb, and they can prove it. This is, actually it's Beckenham again. This is a group of people who got together in a very small reserve behind the Centaurus Road shops to repair the damage done, and these are the numbers of volunteers that turned out. The river's on the left, and on the right is the very busy Centaurus Road with the Centaurus Road shops, and they abut to the Farnley Reserve. And but it has been done beautifully. It's got lots of native plantings, but as you can see, there are some repairs taking place. And finally, this is the Innovating Streets for People projects in Beckenham and Selwyn. Both Beckenham and Selwyn came to the board to tell us the kinds of ideas that they've got for the Innovating for People's projects. This is a great idea, you know. I just wish our whole board had had more time for more involvement with it. Because it has really garnered an enormous amount of community support for the issue, and it is an excellent idea. And the kids came along and talked to us about it. The kids on the right are Beckenham School, and the kids on the left are Summerfield School, to talk about respectively Selwyn and Beckenham. And the kids were remarkable in the way they presented, remarkable. And they had come up with some excellent ideas, and they had massive adult support, which you can't see there, but there were several adults in the room who are heavily involved in this issue. And the money's not great, but it garners an enormous amount of local support and interest, and I'm really grateful for it. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much. I was just going to ask a question about this. And I know it's a minor issue, but about people parking over driveways. Who does enforce that?
Who's asking?
It is us.
Council.
Car parking on Moana Street, Summerfield.
Yeah.
But how do we enforce it?
You ring the you ring the traffic department, the parking, and they'll come over. And if you are parked, the car is, and Dave, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if the car parked is stopping use of the driveway, it can be towed.
Right.
But the simple answer would be to put in those streets where there are issues is to put white lines that define the driveway, and that's what we've asked for. But I've heard nothing back.
We've had it periodically in places like St Martin's School, Tim, and it does garner an enormous amount of blood pressure.
I know, and
well, it's if people are in a hurry to get to work or whatever, they can't get out. It takes time to get the traffic warden there to assess the situation, and then longer to get the tow truck there, etc. Because it has to be a proper process. But you know, it can be solved well.
No, I agree with you, Tim.
But anyway,
my blood pressure would go sky high.
it was just it was a matter of interest because I just read it in the report, and I thought, well, who does enforce it and how?
Us.
So, but you're getting some advice from staff on what you can do. Right. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, Tim.
Just a couple of things with the report. If you look at the wee reserve, Emma. Can you bring up the picture of the Wee Reserve, please? Oh, sorry. Oops. Maybe we can't. I mean, it's a really good example of what we as a council went out to look at. You know, we've got all these reserves, and this is kind of being left, but a group of locals wanted to do something, and it's a fantastic little reserve, but working with one of our staff. So that volunteer and one staff member gets a huge return for our community. But we've got to... So
we should talk about that.
So this is something that we've got to look at the long-term plan, value for money. We've set these things up and they will fail if we don't support them.
Yeah.
So they're almost at capacity. It's an outstanding initiative.
It's a great initiative.
And it's kind of like we've set ourselves up because they've taken off right across the city.
Yeah.
So it's a real change.
But also, Tim, there's the issue of the urban park rangers and their workload.
But I was just saying, that's what I've said. There's the second initiative here, which was this streets initiative, the community streets initiative, if we can go to that one. So we're hugely lucky in our ward that and I say our ward, it's Spreydon, Cashmere, that we had two groups ready to go, and they were all set because they were really passionate about their communities and they were accepted. But this is the type of thing that NZTA Funding's brought this ahead with working with our staff. This is the type of initiative I think as a council we should be looking at throughout our city, because we're getting people to do this. The cost of this is so much cheaper than doing it the usual way. And years ago, I don't know how many of you will remember, I brought that when I was in New York, they did it in New York. So if we, in a really busy part of New York, they just took a triangle
Times
out.
Square.
Yeah, it wasn't Times Square.
Well, they did trial what they've ultimately done to pedestrianise.
So all they did is they painted
Square.
so there's a definition. They put planter boxes, and here people are having a coffee in the middle of these streets. It's absolutely outstanding. So these are two things we can say.
Next time, Tim did a great job advancing the interests of Beckenham, but it would be great if the community boards had perhaps 4 more weeks to consider the issue, because we didn't have time.
It was done but our staff did an outstanding job because it was at short notice. They did an outstanding job. But I just think this initiative, if we carried this on, the value we would get with our communities for what it costs is huge. So, but our staff did a great job in a very short, and I did help with Selwyn as well. Yeah.
No, thank you. I agree. When you look at our strategic priorities, connected communities and active participation, that absolutely ticks every box. So, thank you. Would you like to move the receipt of the report? And seconded by Mel. Who?
David.
Oh.
Could I just further your question around parking? Last year we got 1,600 parking over driveway complaints, and we issued 1,360 infringement notices. Already this year we've had 450 and we've issued 358. So it's quite a big issue out there. So it gives you an idea of the volume. Divide that by weeks, there's...
But that's great. That percentage of charges is great.
It'd be good if we got no complaints and no people parking over driveways, but
Yeah. I think compliance is what we'd like to see.
I don't know if it's been with some income in there.
All right. So it's been moved and seconded. So I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried.